Hello, hello, hello. This video is going to make people mad. I'm going to make what I think is a new argument for God's existence, and it's going to be a very offensive argument. I'm going to say that marriage does not exist unless God exists. So I'm not saying that if you're an atheist and you're not married. Not what I'm saying. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you are an atheist and you are married, then that means there is a God, and that your atheism is incorrect, not that your marriage is incorrect. So don't straw man me. People will, they'll probably just ignore this video, but if they don't, then they will. Although atheism seems to have died on YouTube, now it's all about feminism and liberalism versus conservatism and anti-feminism. Blah 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 blah. So let's get right to it. Love is a good thing. We all know this because we have a moral sense. I won't go into too much defense of it, except to say the world probably looked like it just moved. I'll just make sure the camera didn't fall. And I'm drinking water from a Coke can because I'm a weirdo. And it's late. But you can't get many things done in life unless you lose some sleep. So, the love is a good thing. You have five senses, blah, 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 the five senses, taste, touch, whatever. They're descriptive. The moral sense is prescriptive. So I can taste this water and taste what it tastes like. I can feel the can. I can see what it feels like. Is it rough? Is it smooth? I can see redness in the can. It is red. Those are descriptive. I'm describing the way things are. Moral sense is prescriptive. I should be drinking water. Because and scientifically I know it helps, with a million things, from headaches to high blood pressure to toothaches. But why do I care about those things? Because I believe health is a good thing, blah, 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 and that comes from a moral sense. Okay, so we have this moral sense, and our moral sense tells us that love is a good thing. Alright, so all kinds of ramifications we can deduce, logical deductions, come from that. If love is a good thing, then therefore it is a good thing to love people. Therefore you should do love, because love is good. Okay, but who to love? How to love? If you say love everyone equally, then you run into a problem, because at some point with each person there's going to be some level of commitment between you and that person, because ultimately love is about commitment. And there's going to be some point of commitment between you and that person, and then you're going to move on to the next person, and you're going to cut off and move on, cut off and move on. So, if you make a special commitment to one person, then there's a depth of love you're willing to go to with that one person. But then, well, why that one person? Alright, so how do you, why that one person? Now, if you want to say that, well, this person is just, better than other people, or of all the people who are willing to be with me, this is the best one in the pool of that, it's not love, is it? I've even heard atheists admit that one of the best example of love is Jesus Christ on the cross, is Christianity. Even if it's a made-up idea, that's an ideal of love. Because here's God Almighty, the ultimate super being, dying for us to undergo suffering, to bear our punishment in our place, so that things can be okay for us. And we are hating him for it as he's doing it. That's love, and that's commitment, right? No commitment, no love. If you're just making love, one night stand, you're not making love. It's something else. Okay, if there's no commitment. I guess there has to be some commitment between two people, because it's kind of a dangerous thing to be doing if you don't want to trust the person at all. But anyway, so in other words, what I'm saying is the meritocracy, the idea of a meritocracy, is contrary to the idea of love, because love is not about a meritocracy. You think we earned Jesus Christ loving on the cross? No, he's dying to be punished in our place because we we deserve to go to hell forever. We deserve punishment. We don't deserve that. All right. So, what this means is that the meritocracy fails, and therefore love is never earned. So on what basis can we say that we choose this person instead of that person? Well, obviously it would need to be someone that there's some sort of compatibility, or that you find it easier to love, I guess, in a sense. And the only way I can see to make sense of that is that person, who that person is especially meaningful for you. In other words, there are certain things for you as a person that is just more meaningful. You know, in other words, you're not God. You don't know about everything. You don't know about everyone and all the stuff that goes on. So not everything's especially that meaningful for you. But certain things are. If you find another person who that matches up with, then that's the person you pick, right? If such a person exists. Right? Now here's the thing. I've talked in another video about this before, about, you know, what would you do to even find such a person? But there's other interesting ramifications. But it boils down to, you need to know who you are, and then you need to interact with other people and see if you find another person that has that. But here's the interesting thing is God. Okay, let's say you're atheist husband and wife, and the husband says to the wife, "Honey, I love you, and I married you, I guess, because I love you, but there's 3.5 billion women on this planet. Therefore, statistically speaking, there's like 4 who are just as meaningful to me as you are. I just don't happen to know them. Or I knew them, and I didn't know, I had no way of picking you over them, so I rolled a dice or brought in something else arbitrary from outside of the love thing." Okay? In other words, again, let me reinforce, the meritocracy fails. I think about the story of the prodigal son. The son says, "Dad, I want you to die. You're not dying fast enough. Give me the money for the inheritance. I'm gone." The son blows the money. He comes back, and the father is sitting there, runs to him to receive him back before the son has even asked for forgiveness or anything. So the point is that we understand that is a high form of love. That is good. That the father had that kind of love for the son, that no matter what the son did, the father would still love him and still want him back and still receive him. Let him go, but still be offering forgiveness before the son asks for it. So, why on earth should that form of love exist between a father and son, but not exist between the father and the mother, who were the foundation of the son's existence? You know, the foundation of the family unit has less love than what comes later. It doesn't make sense. In other words, what I'm saying is, if she leaves you, if he leaves you for another whatever, you sit there single as a jaybird, waiting to forgive them. That's what I'm saying. Look at Hosea, right? God told Hosea, "Go marry a prostitute," as a metaphor for my marriage to the people of Israel. And all the time when she goes out, you bring her back. Okay? Yes, what I'm saying is a hard saying. Jesus said it in the book of Mark. He said, if you divorce your wife and then marry another woman, you commit adultery. And if she marries another man, she commits adultery. And the disciples were like, then it's better not to get married, Jesus. So then another guy comes and he's like, how I get into heaven? And Jesus like, obey the commandments. He's like, I'll do that. He's like, well, also, he saw as a rich guy. He's like, sell everything you have and give to the poor and come follow me. And the guy's like, no, whatever, man. And so then Jesus says, it's easier for a camel to pass through an eye of a needle than it is to get into heaven. And the disciples are like, well, then it's impossible to get to heaven, Jesus. Okay, so it's the same thing before with the marriage thing. They're like, well, then it's better not to get married, Jesus. And Jesus says, if you can accept what I'm saying, you should, but I understand it's hard. And then like they say, well, it's impossible to get to heaven, Jesus. And Jesus says, without God, it is impossible. With God, all things are possible. All right. Now, let's go back to our atheist husband and wife with the 4 other mysterious women out there. Or he either knew them, or statistically they still exist. All right. And statistically, there's a 5th woman who's even more meaningful. She's more meaningful to me than you. I just don't happen to know her. Saying that you don't happen to know her is no different from just roll of the dice. It's something, that means it's arbitrary. It means it has nothing to do with the love thing. It's outside of that. So the reason I marry you, honey, is not because I love you. It's because I happen to know you. Or I drew straws. Or I brought in a meritocracy. But not love. But the problem is that we know that love is a good thing, and therefore we can deduce from that we should make a special commitment to one person. So what I'm saying is, if atheism is true, then statistically speaking, marriage is not based on love. It's not real marriage. It's not, you're not married to that person because of I love you. That's not why you're married. If God exists, if there is an outside controller being, then it's possible for there to be, someone for you. And think about it. When you look at the list of what's meaningful to you, and you look at other people, there's always going to be room for doubt, because you never really know someone perfectly. There's always room that, like, I don't know, tomorrow that might surprise me, and it may be like, this person's not who I thought they were. Okay, so in a sense, it's not going to work unless you have the ability to be confident in a guess. And the only way you can be confident in a guess is if you know that God intended for you to be, able to make a choice. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, if he meant for you to do this, and if all the people you've known in your life, score a 4 on the test and this person scores 100, then, hey, what if I find out more about this person and it turns out they're a 1 or a 0? Well, what are you supposed to do about that? That's always possible. Only God knows, every little thing about a person. So, without God, it's impossible. With God, all things are possible. That's what I'm saying. Godliness is a virtue in the New Testament. And without God, the marriage can't be based on true love. Or based on I love you. That is one of the most offensive things I have ever said. But it's not really me that's saying it. It's the logical deductions based on just the idea that love is a good thing. So there. I don't know what else to say beyond that. I guess we've made the point. But what I'm saying is, God sends people to one another. There's another part in, I think, Matthew. Jesus says, what God has joined together, let man not separate. In other words, if God separates you, I guess if she dies or he dies, then that's different. But if God joined you together, then you don't separate, no matter what. So, think about it. Well, when did God join you together? Why? Well, it's in what made you especially meaningful to that person. It's not in the fact that you went through the ceremony of the wedding and made that commitment. It's not that, because, what would that mean, if you just pick anyone at random, make that commitment to them, and then God just sprinkles magical pixie dust on it, and now you're joined, and... No. It's in whatever led to you making that choice and that commitment, and that would be because the person's especially meaningful for you. Okay? So, that is him joining you together. Even in Adam and Eve, right? The the prototype for all marriages in the future. He created Eve for Adam. He didn't, Adam didn't just pick Eve and then all of a sudden, now you're joined together. No, they were joined because of how they were made. They were meant for one another. And if such a person exists, then such a person would be findable in a crowd of people, in a sea of people who you barely interact with, little bit. I mean, think about the odds of finding, if there's 3.5 billion people in this world, and there is such a person who's especially meaningful for you, what are the odds that you'd even find them? Terrible. Terrible.